Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Govinda Jaya 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 Jaya Gopala Jaya Jaya Radha Ramana Hari Govinda 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 Jaya Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai. Oh, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Nitai Hey, Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari. Gaura Hey, 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 Gaura Hey. Jaya Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radha Radha Madana Mohan Radha Madana Mohan Radha Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Radhe Jaya Shri Radhe Jaya Vishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe Vishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe Jaya Vishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe Vishabhanu Nandini Radhe Oh Radhe 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 Jai Shri Shri Guru Garanga Ganhavika Giridhari Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai Satchinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Prabhishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Prabhishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Prabhishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Prabhishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Mahabhagavat Srila Gauri Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Vaishnav Sabhavoma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Srila Baladev Vidibhusham Gauri Vedantacharya Ki Jai Jai Srila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Traya Ki Jai Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai Jai Swarab Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsadi Ki Jai Nama Charja Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sika Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Jamuna Ki Jai Priyat Mridanga Ki Jai Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Nam Bhajan Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Vaishnavas Ki Jai Anantakota Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Gaud Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Pravajantamanapetya Krityam Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tammayatayo Tarabo Binidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktiya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Shiptasya Karmadita Rangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanandikam. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarazara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tarasara Shishima Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada. And unto our beloved Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchidananda Namane Gauda Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki
Jai.
jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai,
Jai.
Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai,
Jai.
Gaur Premanand,
Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. So, continuing with our Jaiva Dharma, and we're into the second set.
Jaiva
Jadedvaita Jnana
Hoya
Hoya
Chita
Chita Upadaya
Upadaya
Krishna
Krishna
Bhakti
Bhakti
Chira
Chira
Dina
Dina Upaya
Upaya Upaya.
Upaya. Such knowledge, which is solely related to the duality of this dull material world, is fit to be rejected, whereas transcendental knowledge of the divine duality within the spiritual world, Chit Jagat, should be accepted forever within one's heart, both as the Upai, the means of attainment, and the Upai, goal worthy of attainment.
So the principal duality in this world is male and female, hot and cold, distress, happiness, etc. So this does not exist in the spiritual world. Everyone actually is described as a female, feminine mood, and that mood is one of serving Krishna completely. Not feminine body necessarily. Nanda Baba, the Gopas, etc. They all have, of course, male bodies, but their moods are that of a feminine nature of serving, etc. So that is the mood. That is the duality within the spiritual world is there. Okay. Jiva
Jiva
kabo
kabu
jadanai,
jadonai,
hari
hari
kabo
kabu
nai,
nai,
hari
hari
sa
saba
jiva
jiva
chintya
chintya
bedu
beda
bedu
abedomai.
mai.
The Jiva is not a product of dull matter, nor is he Keval Advaita, absolutely one in all ways with Sri Hari. The Jiva is inconceivably different and non-different from Hari.
Yeah, the jiva is coming from the chit shakti. Chit shakti is a completely spiritual energy. So that is our baseline, so to speak. We are in the jiva shakti, we are tatashta. Sometimes we are connecting with that purest aspect of chit shakti, other times this external shakti or mahiranga shakti. But nevertheless, our essential nature is of chit shakti. We are completely pure. So therefore, we're not a product. We're not manifesting from dull matter. This is a very deep conception. I mean, practically every single living entity in this material world considers that their birth or their identity is manifesting from Earth, so to speak. In this particular planet, the Earth is the predominating element. If you're in the sun planet, then fire, etc. Water planets are there also. So this misconception of equating our identities with the elements surrounding us is completely um, misleading, and it's the product of Maya, which we're discussing. And neither is he one with Hari, even though we are, in one sense, we have the same qualities, but to a minute particle. Those qualities are there within the jiva, but um, we're not Krishna. We can never be Krishna, but we can have those divine qualities in order to serve Krishna. The more we serve Krishna, the more Krishna can benedict us with qualities that are conducive for his service. He will provide that empowerment for the jiva if he wants to um, genuinely serve Krishna in that regard. So the jiva is inconceivably different and non-different from Hari. That Achintya Beda Tattva that we've already discussed. Okay. Deha
Deha
kaba
kabu
jiva
jiva nai,
noy,
dhara
dhara bhogya
bhogya
noy,
nai,
dasa
dasa
bhogya
bhogya
jiva
jiva
Krishna
Krishna
Prabhu
Prabhu bhokta
bhakta
hoy.
hoy.
The material body should never be considered to be the Jiva. And this earth is not for the Jiva to exploit and enjoy.
As long as we think that we're part of this earth, we will try to exploit it for our happiness. The jiva has to be in a blissful state. If he's not serving Krishna, then he has to look for bliss in this material world. And that's where his confusion begins.
The Jiva Swarup is Krishna Das, and thus he is meant for Krishna's enjoyment, whereas Sri Krishna's Swarup is Prabhu, Master, and Bhokta, enjoyer.
I've just realized why Bhaktivinoda Thakur has to keep repeating it again, or we keep repeating it because we're doing the Falshruti, is because we're so dull. Even though we've heard this for 4 or 5 or 6 months direct, have we made any progress in actually realizing that I'm not this dull material body? That I am, in fact, the spiritual spark. I am that spirit soul within this material body. So we need to hear it again and again and again. Jaiva
Dharma
Dhamma
nahi
nahi
ache
ache
deha
deha
dharma
dharma
kata,
kata
nahi
nahi
ache
ache
jiva
jiva
jnani maya vada
vada
pratam.
pratam.
This book, entitled Jaiva Dharma, neither discusses matters related to the dead material body, nor does it propound the Mayavada doctrine of the Jiva's oneness with Brahm.
Again, substantiating where this particular book is going. Has nothing to do with material time and place. It's trying to elevate us out of that Mayic misconception to the full-blown transcendental reality, not affected by karma or gyan. These two paths, karma or gyan, practically are like witches also. This karma will hijack us into doing activities for our own pleasure, and the gyan route to get moksha is also entirely distracting for the jiva. So these two paths were mostly prominent prior to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's advent. Moksha was very much the proposed goal of most of the rishis, etc. They would all tune to this path of moksha, mukti, we've discussed many times. This was the principle. Bhakti was minimal. And even today, bhakti is certainly minimal. How many, even amongst the devotees, how many consider what is uttam bhakti deeply and seriously, to dedicate their entire lives to pleasing Radha and Krishna and that spiritual world? Even we hear about it, but we don't actually, we're not capable of walking that route. Jiva nitya dharma bhakti tahe
Tahe
jada
jadanai,
nahi
Shuddha
Shuddha
Jiva
jiva
Prema
prema
Seva
seva
Phale
phale payatai.
Payatai. The Jiva's Nitya Dharma is bhakti, devoid of material motivation. The Jiva, purified by Seva, attains the fruit of that Seva in the form of Prem.
Was that ahoitiki apratihata? This path without motivation and um,
Without stop.
uninterrupted. Savai pum samparo dharma. This is the dharma for all humanity, in fact. Srimad Bhagavatam is substantiating this just in the second chapter. In the first chapter also, we were quoting at in the previous verse, 112.
Two. Dharma
So
Proti.
all the way through, these bhakti shastras are substantiating the futility of any endeavor within this material world that is going to be devoid of a connection with Krishna, is actually just useless, wasting our God-given life and energy. So we must try to wake up to this, become udita vivek, and wake up to this predicament that we're in. Okay. So we're back to our chapter 20,
479.
479, correct?
Yeah.
79.
62nd Anga.
Okay, so we discussed practically for 2 days, we sat on
Srimad
the glories of the Bhagavatam. And I think we pretty much covered something. The glories of the Bhagavatam, as we said, could be spoken for all time. But this is one of the angas, most important anga of our practice. So Vijay, what is the association?
Vijay. What is the association of bhaktas who are of the same mood, swajatiya, and affectionate, snigdha?
So
Number
yesterday
62.
we discussed this swajatiya, swajatiya, same mood, which means the same conception. Yes, I want to be a Palyadasi of Srimati Radharani. If you find that association anywhere, grab it, because it's very, very rare. The disciples of Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj were really trained and schooled strongly in this regard. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was establishing that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the very first step of our purification, to appreciate and absorb that conception fully. Without that conception, then anything else doesn't make sense. So first of all, that has to be there. But it's not necessary that we should remain in that stage of just accepting Sri Krishna as my Ishtadev and my goal. Because then what is my identity in connection with Krishna? Am I a gopi? But we described yesterday how that gopi bhav can only manifest from the kaya vyuha of Radhika. That gopi bhav contains the mood of sambhog ichamai. That means I have a desire to have direct relationship with Krishna. That is the most extremely elevated state to be in. And you cannot access that um, here unless you meet someone who is already of that nature, unless you meet a realized gopi, in other words, like someone who was Swarup Damodar, like someone who was Rai Ramananda, Vishaka. If that caliber of personality is there, that is the low B. That is the principle to describe, to infuse the low ba, the greed, to take that birth. But this is not what Mahaprabhu has come to give. Mahaprabhu is the Yuga avatar. He's come to give something very specific to the jiva, something so extraordinary. Because if we embrace that mood of Swabhakti Shriyam, the beauty of Sri Radhika, this Manjari Bhav, then the jiva, this is the Pran Sakis and the Nitya Sakis, these Manjaris will be benedicted with a mood of tadatmik towards Sri Radhika while she is receiving these moods, these embraces from Krishna. If Krishna is kissing Radharani on the cheek and the Manjari is serving at that particular time, a bloom of that kiss will come on the Manjari's cheek also. She will also experience that direct interaction that Sri Radhika does. It's called tadatmik, and that's the example of the iron. When the iron is in the fire, then the iron takes on all the qualities of the fire. It becomes red, it burns, it smokes, etc. when it's in the fire. But when you take it out of the fire, it loses all those qualities. So when those manjaris are directly with Radhika, because there's so much a part of her, they're like her extended limbs practically. These manjaris, because they're younger than Radhika, they're like her um, complete supports for so much of her activities. The Sakis, she has a different relationship with. The Sakis are like her Priyanam, her Nam Sakis, they're like her dearest friends, Lalita Vishaka, etc. But the Manjaris, the mood of service that they perform is more intimate than the mood of the Sakis. The Sakis cannot enter into the Kunj while Radha and Krishna are in their conjugal pastimes, but the Manjaris can fearlessly go there because they feel that they're an anga. They feel that they're a part of Sri Radhika. They're like Sri Radhika's shadow. They never leave Sri Radhika. So those Manjaris, and what the bliss and speciality that they can experience is practically on a level with Sri Radhika. It's not entirely on the level of Radhika, but it's practically on the same level as Radhika. So this gift is what Mahaprabhu has, and it's so selective. It's such a speciality. It's so subtle, a commodity, so to speak. It was like practically unheard of prior to Mahaprabhu. It's a really rare, absolutely rare, the rarest of rare gems that only manifests once in the single day of Lord Brahma. What, there are 14 manus in a day of Lord Brahma. That's, what is it, 4,320,000,000 years in one day. And then the night is the same. So a period of 8,640,000,000 years. And within that cycle, in the seventh Manvantara, each Manvantara lasts for 306 million years, a Manvantara. And in each Manvantara, there's a particular set of devas and demigods. And they change. There's a new Indra every Manvantara. Shivji, he remains the same throughout. But, and Lord Brahma, of course, remains the same. But all the other devas, they all change. So in the seventh Manvantara, immediately after Krishna's advent, Krishna is Lila Purushottam. He's only come to relish these exchanges in Boma Vrindavan with his Sakis and his Parikars from Vrindavan. He's also come, Parityanaya Sadhanam, to relieve the earth, etc., and to purify the demons that are populating the earth. But his main intention is to bring his spiritual entourage from Goloka Vrindavan. Because in Vrindavan, in Aprakat Leela, the conception of Parakya is there. It must be there in order to taste the highest rasa of Unnata Ujvala. It has to be there. But it's only a conception that the gopis have husbands. They don't actually have husbands. They just have the idea that they have a husband and that they're transgressing material dharma in Goloka Vrindavan. But here in Boma Vrindavan, in earthly Vrindavan, they actually do have husbands. So it's a different dynamic. There's a speciality to it that Krishna enjoys, the speciality of this flavor, simultaneously as demonstrating the ability of his pastimes to enliven the jivas towards Goloka Vrindavan, the highest conception. And this is only happening for a very small window. It was never there previously. It's such a selective time frame. Basically, it's actually a few hundred years where this opportunity, if we connect significantly with Mahaprabhu's teachings and instructions, and that means connecting with all the previous manjaris in our line. This is how we're able to actually absorb this particular mood, because it's all those personalities who have that mood, are those personalities, are able to give to us. There has to be the personality, just like for bhakti itself to manifest. It has to come bhakti sanjataye bhaktya. Bhakti only comes from bhakti. It doesn't come from your sadhana. It doesn't come from your practice. It comes from the heart of one who has bhakti. That person can give, literally give that bhakti. That's why the conception of Ritvik is so completely apasidantic, because that's not following the same path. That's an imagined idea that you can get bhakti from a predecessor. How can that you can get sukriti, you can get so much encouragement, etc., from all of our predecessors, but the actual seed of bhakti, so the seed of this manjari bhav, where is that embedded? Originally, it's coming from Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, Sanatan Goswami, Lavanga Manjari, Jiva Goswami, Vilasa Manjari, Rati Manjari, Raghunath Das Goswami. All these personalities are carrying that seed directly from the heart of Sri Radhika. They're Radhika's Kaya Vyuha. They're coming from her body. So amazingly, Mahaprabhu has come to give this incredible gift to the jivas only at this particular time. And it's in the most fallen age. Out of all the 1,000 Kali Yugas in a day of Lord Brahma. This is the most fallen of all the different Kali Yugas. This is the most degraded. In this is the darkest period. And yet within this darkest period, this most brilliant gem and light is there for intelligent men to actually adhere to absorb, to follow. And it's a journey because it's the journey of the soul, and it has to be in the heart. It can't be coerced through gyan. It's not by karma. It has to come in the heart region. The individual has to be completely connected with Sadguru, because it's only through that channel, it's only through that channel that this can actually manifest.
Maharaj, I have a doubt. You were telling about Manjaris and Sakis, the difference. Priya Saki, Priya Narma Sakis. So they're all Sambhoga Ichamai, right?
No, three. The Sakis are Sambhoga Ichamai. The Manjaris are Tad Bhav Ichamai.
No. My question is Priya Saki, Priya Narma Saki. They're all Sambhoga.
And Sakis, yes.
Sakis,
three.
these three.
Yeah.
So they can't become Tadatmik with Radha, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that
they're older. And they have a beautiful, incredible relationship with Radha. Especially this comes out most prominently in this Vidagdha Madhav. When you read this Vidagdha Madhav, how because of Lalita and Vishaka, Radha and Krishna will meet. They won't meet otherwise. Lalita Devi is construing all kinds of, amazing pastimes just so Radha and Krishna can connect together. But the Manjaris, they have a different service. They have the service directly to Radhika's well-being, of her bodily well-being, of her every movement well-being. They never leave her. They're like her very, very, very intimate personal sevaks. They're always in the mood of sevak, whereas the Sakis, they are in the mood of deep, deep friendship with Radhika. The friendship that Radhika has with Lalita Vishaka is born at the same moment as Sri Radhika. Lalita Devi, she's also called Aradhaya. She's like completely connected to Radha as a friend, but the intimate service is left to the Manjaris. That is another almost prakosht, almost chamber of consciousness. So they have the Tadatmik, but the Sambhog, they have the bliss and pleasure of Krishna's arms embracing them. They are open to that experience of Krishna's conjugal affairs. Every day in the Madhyana Lila, Radhika sends Krishna, he expands himself into the eight forms, and he goes into individual kunj with each gopi. And he has conjugal relationships with all of them. And all those gopis, and there's billions of gopis, are manifested from Radhika to facilitate Krishna's pleasure in this particular area, to serve Krishna. Krishna has billions of desires, amorous desires, and they're filled by these Sakis, but not the Manjaris. The Manjaris, even if they're sent to Krishna for some conjugal exchange, they will never, ever accept that. Always they will run away from that, like little girls. They don't want to have that. That's not their Dharma, you can say. That's not who they are. It's called bhavolas. It's the sthaibhav of affection towards Radhika exclusively. Radhika Sneha, Atyantika Sneha, just to Radhika. They only have that. But the Sakis, it's a completely different, and it's so incredibly beautiful also. Both are beautiful. The Manjaris and the Sakis, both are beautiful, but they're different. So one is called Sambhog Ichamai. That means, Icha means desire. So they have desire for union with Krishna, and that is fulfilled. And the Manjaris, they are Tad Bhav Ichamai. They become one with Radhika. And this is what Mahaprabhu has come to benedict the conditioned souls, the jivas, with this mood. And this mood is completely extraordinary. It's very selective. And this is the mood that Raghunath Das has, Rupa Goswami has. These personalities were not present in the Gambhira with Radhika. Who was present in the Gambhira with Radhika? Lalita and Vishaka in the form of Swarup Damodar and Rai Ramananda. They were there supporting Mahaprabhu's mood as being Radhika. They are Radhika's best friends and confidential bosom friends. Gadadhar, who is directly Radha, is on the other side of the Chatak Parvat, like in another place. She doesn't come. Gadadhar is never there in the Gambhira. That would create some rasabas. So we should understand these.
Maharaj, Rupa Manjari and all the Manjaris who are coming under Rupa Nuga. Yuteshwari is Lalita, right? Or Radha?
Yes, Ananga Manjari and Lalita Saki. Lalita Saki is the principal Yuteshwari. Also, Vishaka is a Yuteshwari. So many of the gopis are Yuteshwaris, but they don't actually manifest that bhav of being a Yuteshwari. They consider that Radhika is our Yuteshwari. We are in the Swapaksh group of Radhika, and she is our sole inspiration and Yuteshwari. But nevertheless, it's described very clearly that Lalita and Vishaka, they also have the qualities to accept that position. So in our, like in Jaiva Dharma, right in the very beginning, it's saying when Babaji is telling to silence the monkey, because Ananga Manjari is looking. So she's like next. Ananga Manjari is not actually a Manjari. She's a Saki. Her name is Manjari, but she's actually a Saki, the younger sister of Radhika, because she does have conjugal relationship with Krishna. So she's not a Manjari, but she's also like in the order, in the chain, so to speak, of command, we can say. Lalita is at the top and Ananga Manjari is second to that. So
hierarchy.
Hierarchy, that's the word, yeah, in the hierarchical appreciation. Then first of all, there's Ananga Manjari, and then there is Lalita Saki. So we are encouraged into that paksha, into that group of Lalita Saki. Okay.
Babaji, associating with abhaktas, non-devotees, in the name of satsanga will not bring elevation in bhakti.
So who is a non-devotee? A non-devotee, we've just read, is someone who is not interested in the rasa conceptions. I've met devotees like this. They actually block their ears when you talk about ras vichar. Oh, don't talk about that. We're not qualified. We're not qualified. But actually, they will never be qualified because they have so much fear. It's such a confrontation with the sensitive part of themselves, and they're just terrified to actually go that route. And actually, because they haven't been trained, they haven't come into the school of those devotees who can teach that, can educate them into that. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has said all of these things in his books, but he was mostly focusing on establishing Maryad. Because who was he speaking to? Who was he preaching to? He was preaching to animals, basically, barbarians. Drugs, sex, rock and roll. These are the main three principles of the hippies. That's what they came with. They wanted that. So far away from Maryad. And what a miracle Prabhupada performed in bringing them to the human platform and having faith in Krishna, full faith in Krishna. But there is more to the journey than just that. There is more to the story, so to speak. If by some fortune that jiva can begin to desire that, if he reads about that and he starts to understand these precepts and then seeks that swajatya, seeks that company of association. Otherwise, if he just stays on the lower rungs, then in this birth at least, he won't reach. Maybe next birth he may get some flavor. It's not sure. But all that I was saying was to appreciate the limited time frame when this opportunity is actually given by Mahaprabhu. After Mahaprabhu's teachings subside somewhat, the glories of Nam will take precedence. And what do the glories of Nam bring? They bring a conception of well-being to the soul and connection with Krishna in service, perhaps aspiration for Dwarka or Vaikuntha or Mathura, but they're not necessarily going to give this Madhurya entrance, because Nam has been the Purusartha in all of these Kali Yugas. Nam has been there, but Nam was never empowered by Mahaprabhu to give the same results that is being given now. These results that are being distributed are unbelievable, and we should never take them for granted, thinking that, oh, this is normal. Because sometimes in a sangha or in a group, you think, oh, this is normal. We've been talking about this for years. But it's not normal. It really is selective. It's very, very, very rare. I'm saying this so we should take it with the greatest respect and gratitude that I have this. And as much as possible, as much as is within our adhikar and ability to absorb and go forward with these conceptions and make progress in this lifetime, in this channel, then in our next birth, we will have much more opportunity to actually have realization. We can have realization also in this birth, of course, by Krishna Radhika's mercy, Guru's mercy. But at the same time, my Gurudev gives the story of someone who was very, very sick with their digestion, was completely useless. And they went to see an Ayurvedic doctor. He told them to take a spoonful of ghee every day. And the devotees, they said, but how, he can't even digest water. And you're asking him to take a spoonful of ghee. And the doctor said, no problem. After 1 or 2 weeks, something will stick. Something of the ghee will gradually coat itself on the digestive system, and then success will gradually come. So it's like this. We are getting some coating. We are getting some some ink, some opening is there. Something is coming. We're hearing about these things. Some interest has built. And gradually on the back of that interest, then more appreciation and more service in that direction. And following the instructions of Mahaprabhu. Just like here in all these angas. It's all just like the last one we read about, the Srimad Bhagavatam. Unless you actually have a focus on ras, then what is the objective of the Bhagavatam? I hope some of you will have looked at that essay that we advertised on our thread, that, what is it? The Divine Temple of Rasa, I think, or
Bhakti.
What's it called? The Divine
Temple of
Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Anyway, you can get all of these essays are all on raising the divine temple. This is on my website, just to illuminate the concepts that I'm sharing are coming from
raising the divine temple of the Bhagavat.
Raising the divine temple of the Bhagavat. So beautiful. And it talks about 8 different principles coming from doubtfulness through atheistic mentality and gradually moving through the platform, and then coming to Purush, coming to Mituna. Mituna means there's a conception of male and female, and then coming to the conception of Swakiya, and then finally coming to the Parakiya stage. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has distributed all of these truths, but how many are actually picking up seriously? My Gurudev said, put a rocket behind all these truths. He said in this life, he wasn't going to cut jungles. He wasn't going to bother with that. He just wanted to present the truth that actually Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati wanted to present in his life. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was saying many times, I had to cut so many jungles of Mayavad misconceptions. So these jungles are going to be there forever. But if you plant the seed of the goal, like we said, this Vikriditam Brajavadubi Achamta Vishnu, Shraddhan Vishnu Ya,
Shraddhanvito
Nishunyad Artha
Shrunyad Yad
Paranyam Ya,
Varnayad
Bhaktim Param Bhagavati Pratilabhya Karmam Hridroga Masav Apinoti Akcharena
Rena
Dira.
Diraha.
That by focusing on this destination, that all of the support actually will come to enter this. And then Pratilabhya, then Shuddha Bhakti will rise.
Bhaktim Param Bhagavati.
Yes, Bhakti Param Bhagavati, this Param Bhakti will arise. And then the Hridrogam. After Bhakti arises, then the disease of the heart will actually be purified, not the other way around. It's a huge appreciation and topic. It's not that I can purify the Hridrog first,
Then Bhakti.
then Bhakti will come. No, first Bhakti has to come. First, the attraction to Radha and Krishna has to manifest, and by that attraction, then this Hridrog will start to become purified. But it's the other way around. Bhakti has to manifest first, and then the disease of the heart will very easily just be dissipated. Associating with abhaktas, non-devotees,
In the name of satsang will not bring elevation in bhakti. The goal that bhaktas desire is to obtain service in Krishna's aprakrita, unmanifest leela.
Do we all have that goal? Not so many. Most subtly desire either wealth in this world in the form of a nice, comfortable, real situation with all my bills paid and all my children nicely educated, and I have my all material objects there, and I'm shanti as far as the material setup is concerned. My body is okay. I'm looking a lot to keep my body healthy, etc., going to all kinds of clinics and this and that and the other. All this is like karma mishra. And then there's some Krishna thrown in. And then there's the path of Gyan, where I'm wanting actually liberation. And I've met devotees practicing, and I can sense that they believe that going back to Godhead means becoming liberated. They think that actually going back to Godhead means being liberated of all my material problems. That's what going back to Godhead means. But that's not the case at all. Prabhupada was so expert. He gave these sort of like hints, so to speak, to pull people in, to attract people. This preaching method had to be there. Otherwise, people would not have come. Because that's all they wanted was relief from the material onslaught. That's why people come to devotional service to begin with. Because they think, I'm going to be happy now. What does happiness mean from the material conception? I'm going to have either wealth or liberation. This is karma or gyan. But as we come into this path more and more and more, we realize the futility of gyan and karma. That is not the path where I want to go. So if I'm in the association of abhaktas who only want that, that is their disposition, that is their, what do you call, not disposition, that is their goal, that is their proclivity, that is what they want, then this is not the best association for Shuddha Bhakti. You will not get Shuddha Bhakti from that type of association. It will be actually detrimental because you'll get contaminated by that. Obviously you will. We're very weak. We're very prone to various influences. All kinds of influences will come. We're subjected, just like Bhakti Rakshak Maharaj describes, like a football on a pitch just gets booted around, kicked around from place to place to place to place. So the weakened mind of the jiva by bad food, polluted air, polluted sound vibrations, so much pollution weakens the consciousness, weakens the resolve of the individual. So he can be influenced very easily by negative forces. And now, of course, we all have these cell phones. Every moment, the impressions are just forcing their way into our consciousnesses. Even if we have the best intention to read lectures and so on, in between, you've got this bombardment of all kinds of nefarious messages. And sometimes, some of them, you're going to want to examine closer. It's an amazing trick of Maya, because these mobiles cover everything from, and no one even knows what you're actually doing. You can sit behind your screen doing all kinds of things.
Privacy.
Huh?
You'll have the privacy.
Yeah, you have the privacy of your phone to do whatever Maya you want to indulge in. This was never present before. You know, it's amazing how that is there as well. So that has to be controlled fully. We have to wake up to these influences. This is what this verse is about. Seek the influence, the correct sangha that's going to influence us in the right direction. And we judge, or we make our decision by what we hear and also by what we see. We have to appreciate the different characters that are perhaps propagating these texts and so on. We have to see, well, how do they live? What are they doing? What are their actual subtle interests? Someone may be speaking from Jaiva Dharma. As soon as it's finished, they jump in the car and go and watch some video or something. How can that be balanced? How can that be genuine? That indicates some other subtle desires are there. So even what we're hearing from that source can have some distortion within it. That's why we have to stay hooked diligently into the lotus feet of Sadguru. Sadguru, we have to be completely holding on tightly. It's a desperate condition until we get these clear realizations of our best interest and goal. And principally, this is the clear idea of Mahaprabhu's gifts. This clear idea of what is Manjari Bhav, what is Sakhi Bhav, what is the mission of Mahaprabhu. Rag Marg Bhakti Loke Karite Prajan. He's come to give Rag Marg. Hasn't come to give Vaidhi Marg. Vaidhi Marg was already there. Vaidhi Marg can be given by Advaitacharya. Nityananda, of course, can give Rag Marg, but he doesn't. He leaves it up to his elevated brother. That's Mahaprabhu's speciality. So to take deep, deep shelter of Mahaprabhu is our best fortune and, greatest wealth. Desire to obtain service to Krishna's apricot unmanifest Leela.
And one who has this desire should be known as bhakta, as a bhakta. Elevation in bhakti comes from associating with members of this group of bhaktas who are superior to oneself.
Always we're thinking like that. This is how a respectful person will appreciate his company. He'll always, and that will generate more strength among you. There's a story that there was 5 monks in a monastery, and the monastery became really dilapidated with time. It became really run down. The 5 remaining monks in the monastery began to lose sort of inspiration. All the grasses were overgrown, the beehives, etc., were being neglected. There was much, and they weren't becoming so appreciated by the public. And then one great sadhu, he came to that monastery and he sat down with those 5 and he said, I can see with my mystical vision that one of you is the next Messiah. This is not a story from the Puranas, but one of you is the next Messiah. So they all naturally thought, well, it's not me, because they all understood their own failings. But it could be him, or it could be him. And then they all started generating so much more respect for each other. And when they started generating this type of real respect for each other, thinking, oh, perhaps this person is the Messiah, perhaps that person, then what happened over the next few months? That whole ashram started to revive itself. The whole power of that appreciation for their god brothers, so to speak, that respectful attitude. So here it's saying, to think that they are senior, more advanced. If you're thinking in that way, not that I am the most advanced, I know everything, you can't tell me anything. Oh, there's nothing you can tell me. I know everything. I've been this. This kind of mentality is not going to be healthy for progress. Definitely not. But if I'm always thinking, what is the amazing nature of this personality? Where has he come from? What abilities, what gifts has he got hidden down there in the core of his heart? If I'm thinking like that, it's simply Trinada Pisunichena, Tarora Pisuishna, Amanina Manadena, seeing with this respectful mood. That is proper sadhu sangha. Superior
to oneself.
self, yes.
Without this Sangha, the development of bhakti stops, and one acquires the nature of the class of people with whom he has Sangha.
That's what we just said. If you're associating with all people who think that going back to Godhead means liberation, if that's what you think it means,
stop there.
then you stop there. That's the ceiling. You can't go beyond that conception, because that's what your company is maintaining is the truth. So we have to pray. We simply have to pray sincerely for that higher association. It's Krishna's responsibility to supply that. And if he sees our sincerity, he will supply it. He will make that arrangement himself. He will facilitate that higher Sangha.
In relation to Sangha, Hari Bhakti Shuddhodaya 8.51 says, Yasya yat sangati pumso manivat syat sad tad gunaha. Swa kularadhya tato dhiman swayuthani eva samshrayet. Just as a jewel reflects the colors of object around it, similarly a person's nature become like that of those with whom he associates.
And if you associate with that little black box, the phone, you'll become like that too.
Yes.
You'll become like society. For example, if you say, for example, you start watching television and you will, or any movie, you will naturally associate with the persons in that movie. You will naturally cry when the heroine has died or something. You will naturally celebrate when the hero is successful. You tune in to their feelings and emotions.
You get into that character.
Yes, you get into the character. That's associating. That's asat sangha. You associate with those individuals that you're seeing. This is a fact. You associate with them. So if you regularly are watching newscasts or things like that, you're regularly tuning in to all those people, and they're going to have an influence on the consciousness,
Maharaj,
grossly or subtly.
so that is true with even with bhaktas, right?
Yeah.
For example, we have
I'm talking about bhaktas.
No. My question is, you said we get into the characters of these material people.
Yes.
So there are Shuddha Bhaktas, their lectures are there,
Yes.
their videos are there.
Yes.
So if we tune into them, will
Yes.
we get those?
Yes, definitely. If you tune into the videos of Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj, for example, or Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Maharaj, you will begin to imbibe their moods naturally. But then there is a quantity of gurus out there in the marketplace, and they've all got their brilliant message to tell you how to be happy in this world. So we have to be very discriminatory in who we are actually associating with. There are many kind of personalities who can talk about the difficulties of the mind, for example. And even devotees, most devotees, have some difficulty controlling the mind. So if you're hearing from a non-devotee about how to control the mind and thinking, yes, I can get some material facility here, that's not necessarily going to be progressive for your bhakti. Because what is their intention? Their intention is to enjoy life. So there's going to be a twist on everything they say. It's going to be trying to get back to you being the enjoyer, not to you being a servant of Krishna. It's so subtle. It's called mass hypnosis. And it goes on everywhere. We're all subjected to it. Even if we can't completely eliminate it. The only way we can begin to eliminate is to try to keep very healthy association, which is what this Anga is all about pointing. If we try to regularly hold on to what we consider a genuine, sincere association, then this is the only path, because we're human and we want to associate, we want to be with people like that. It's our nature to communicate with others. So who are we going to communicate with? If the bhakta is sure of his bhakti, when he's out in the world communicating, he's distributing his bhakti to all those who he meets. He's not going to tolerate coming down to a lower level in any type of conversation. He'll correct something when he sees that it's actually not beneficial for his bhakti. He'll become strong in that area. And therefore, he probably won't have very many friends. That would be the result, because they won't want to associate with someone who doesn't want to have a good time in the material world. They become a little dull to the material pleasures of the world. So,
Therefore, one only becomes a pure sadhu by the association of pure sadhus. Sadhu Sangha, the association of advanced bhaktas, is beneficial in every way. Where Shastra gives advice that we should be free from mundane companionship, the purport is that one should associate with sadhus.
yes, not just give up mundane companionship, but associate with devotees. Tadati pradignati guyam, akyati prachati bhungte vajayate. What's that? I always forget that. Tadati pradignati guyam.
Shadvidam Priti Lakshanam.
Yeah, that's the last one. But these 6 ways of associating are there.
Tadati Pratigana means giving gift.
Giving gifts, exchanging and receiving gifts, and sharing your confidential realizations, and hearing someone else's realizations.
Then Tadati, yes.
And sharing prasada.
Prasada.
Yes. These are the 6 symptoms of association, to be like that. Okay, so these are powerful angas to appreciate. So we'll stop there. So the next is what is meant by Nam Sankirtan. So these last 5 are very, very important. So they have more relevance to us. And I think we have to take them all very, very, very seriously. If we genuinely want our bhakti to go forward, we have to see what are the pitfalls in my own personal life and how can I tighten things up. Every day we should be considering. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says the last thing at night is you should tally up what have you done in the realm of Shuddha Bhakti today. What activity have you performed that you would consider is pure bhakti today, and go through. And then, of course, the sadhak is never satisfied, because that's the dynamic of bhakti itself. We're never complacent. If you were satisfied, then the dynamism would actually cease and you would become complacent. So this greed would not be there. So there always has to have a feeling of a shortfall, of this mood. I'm not doing enough. I'm simply not practicing sufficiently. And only this way, with that humility, can I begin to incorporate more practices within my life, somehow or other. So this is our path for our consideration. Jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Vanshakalpa Tarubhyascha. Kripa Sindhu Bevacha, Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha.